Hello there, welcome back to Ethereal Handmade. If you're new, which you probably are, welcome to Ethereal Handmade. I am the owner of Ethereal Handmade, the founder, so I would just like to let you guys know, if you don't know already, I actually don't have my business started yet, but it's coming up soon on Etsy. I'm going through all the trial and error trials, those kind of things with a small business before I actually open up my store. So I'm still figuring things out, but I'm going to give you guys some of the tips that I have and I've learned. First things first, I highly suggest doing your research, really finding out that thing that you want to do and not just doing something that maybe works out for you, because eventually you might give up on your business and that doesn't make a whole big point on it. So I totally would suggest doing something that you really enjoy. It would be even better if you could enjoy something that is somewhat trending, but even if it's not, that's totally okay, because you might as well make it more trendy yourself. For me, I went through many different ideas until I found the one that I liked. I even actually started buying stuff for another business until I realized I hadn't done enough research on my business and it was not going to work for me. Step number 2 is definitely to research the prices of your business. Is it actually going to be worth it? Are you going to get enough pay out of it? For example, I was going to start a slime business possibly, and the prices of the glue and the activator and all the supplies were a lot, and I couldn't even get some of the supplies that I needed in my country, in my current region. So that really sucked, and I had already bought stuff for it, and I just hadn't had enough time to take the research that I need. So for this business, this clay business, I took way more research and I found out that I could get all the things that I would need in my region and for the decent price that will work for me. If you're a person that doesn't like math like me, this might be a process that's a little more boring and takes a little bit longer, but trust me, it's worth it, calculating all your prices, comparing to what you're going to sell them for. So figure out how much per product you're paying for supplies, and then how much you're actually making out of selling it, and how much you might be paying for shipping, or whether you're going to make the person pay for shipping or not, which I will be doing, because shipping can really depend on where you're shipping it to. So I would suggest making the person that is buying from you pay for shipping. The next thing is, of course, to find a good workspace for you, which is much easier than anything else. This was quite easy for me. I had to buy a desk, of course, but it was worth it in the end. And so I have quite a few more tips and tricks, but these are kind of the main ones. My very last one that I'm going to give for this section of the video is watch other people's videos. Figure out what other people do for their small business, and even more than just watching me, because I haven't even started yet, is to watch other people and see what they say. That's how I learned a lot of my tips and tricks that worked for me, was watching other people and learning from other people. Since I have not started my business yet, I don't know a whole lot about selling stuff. I mostly know about making stuff. But I do suggest selling off of Etsy, because if you try selling off of, for example, your own Google account, most people won't really be seeing it, because if you're not YouTube famous or something like that, then most people aren't really going to see your business. So I suggest selling off of Etsy, because all people have to do is search clay jewelry or pillows or something like that, and your products might come up as some of the first things even. And also Etsy is probably one of the easier selling bases. I do know that using Etsy you do have to pay for, and they ask for some of your profit, but I think it's going to be worth it. I'll tell you guys more about Etsy when I actually start using it and when I get into the flow of things, and tell you guys if it's actually worth using or if you should use something else. Okay, so now this next section is going to be focused on people who are doing clay business, like me, a clay business, sorry. and less on people who are just doing a small business in general. So if you're selling clay jewelry or clay trinkets like me, this is the perfect section for you. If you haven't started yet and you're wondering how should you roll out your clay, how should you keep it flat and even, and you're thinking about hand rolling your clay, I highly do not suggest this because of one big problem with clay, one of clay's biggest enemies, which is lint. Lint is little fibers that come off of your hands, your clothing, just even from the air sometimes, and when you hand roll it, all that lint, even if you wear gloves like me, it's really hard to avoid lint. Lint is just in all inevitable and it will probably always be there, but it is possible to avoid lint. So I highly suggest using a pasta roller or something similar to reduce the level of lint. And some people just use their hands, but I think that to reduce lint, it's better to use gloves. Secondly is that when you were rolling it out, in this video I am actually doing it wrong, and I rolled out my pasta the wrong way, creating air bubbles. So watch a tutorial about air bubbles, you'll see that I've been doing things wrong in this video. So I highly suggest that, or else you'll get air bubbles in your clay, which you definitely do not want. Another thing, which has to do with lint again, is not to wear black or dark clothing while you are working on your clay projects, because black and dark clothing have lint that happens to show up a lot more than any other piece of clothing. And even more, you can kind of tell when a piece of clothing is fibery or not, depending on if it's fuzzy. The smoother the clothing is, the better, because the less fibers will come off. So I highly suggest using white instead of black, or even gray. Just the lightest color you can find in your closet will be great for making your jewelry. For clay jewelry, I suggest using clay that you have to cook instead of air dry clay, because I tried a couple times using air dry clay, and the problem with air dry clay is that while you're kneading it, it becomes crumbly as it dries, and also it's really hard to keep from drying out while you contain it for your next use. It might be a cheaper option, but I still wouldn't go for air dry clay because it's a lot harder to use. And yes, it's hard to use cooking clay because you have to find out the right temperature with your oven. I accidentally burned mine and that was a disaster, trust me. Packaging is something that is best to do with a balance of price and aesthetic and beauty in it, because everybody loves getting a package that feels like a gift, but at the same time you can't be spending so much on your packaging that it's less efficient or it's too much money that you're using on your packaging. You should at least be spending the same amount of money on your supplies as you are with packaging, unless for your supplies making your product you only need like one or two things. Like me, I only really need the earring loops and hooks and the clay, but I still try to minimize my packaging. As I have not packaged any orders yet since I've not started, I'm really excited for packaging, although I know that eventually it'll get tiring if I have a lot of orders coming in at some point. So always just be prepared for that if you're like me, excited about packaging and whatever, and make sure that packaging doesn't take up too much of your time. If you're tying ribbons or sticking stickers all over your box, just make sure that it's not taking up too much of your time, or that can be extremely annoying at some point of time, and then you'll have bought all your supplies for doing that and you have to continue with that. So I suggest finding something that is a good time balance as well for you. For your packaging, also make a business card. That is one thing that I suggest, because people can see where you are on social media. If they have questions about you, you can give your email so they can respond to that, and also you can just write a little thank you note on your business card, thank you for your order, or whatever it is that you want to put in. So guys, that's it for today. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It supports me so much, and I really appreciate it. Please keep my business in mind as well, and I'll see you later.